DrJzz105.com.
I have the honor and the privilege today of sitting with Dr. Jasmine Schoolard, better known as DrJzz, what I would classify as one of today's most phenomenal voices. You know, Dr. Jazz, you've been on the scene a long time, but you're new to a lot of us, and I just wanted to start off just by asking, where'd you come from?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this program. Of course, you can detect an accent, so that accent is from Trinidad and Tobago.
Wow.
The last island in the Caribbean.
Wow.
But the scripture said the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So I think I've been waiting a long time.
Wow, wow. How long have you been in ministry?
Oh, I've been in ministry, pastoring a church for 11 years, been licensed to preach in 18 years.
Wow, wow. Well, the famous question that I know the world, because it's officially been announced by Bishop Jakes, that you are one of this year's Woman Thou Art Loose speakers. And for those of us in the Christian community, that's a huge platform. That's
Absolutely.
a huge platform. But you're not quite unfamiliar because you just did MegaFest for Bishop Jakes. So
Yes.
you are familiar with the types of audiences and crowds that that he brings together. So first of all, let's go backwards. Let's talk about what was it like mounting the platform of MegaFest?
In one way it was nervousness, but then another way it was just be able to see how God moved. And I've been waiting for a long time for an opportunity. And to see that God would give me that opportunity that so many other women might have looked for, particularly women in the ministry.
Right.
Of course, to be on a platform with Bishop Jakes is amazing.
Amazing.
It's life-changing. Somebody told me my life would never be the same again.
I concur 100% because, you know, whether people like to admit it or not, Bishop Jakes has become one of the world's greatest known preachers. And he has done so much for us as a people, from the preaching aspect to the spiritual aspect to the entrepreneur aspect. I mean, crossing all lines of entertainment, breaking barriers in the Christian as far as it comes to the church itself. But it's like a signature move when Bishop Jakes puts anybody on a platform. Those of us in the Christian community, it's all eyes and all ears open. Does that make you nervous?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Jack on the Titanic. I don't even know how I got here. I know ultimately it's the hand of God, but
Right.
of course it makes you nervous. And if you're not nervous, then you're not taking the assignment seriously.
Right.
But I know ultimately, as Bishop often informs me, he's just the instrument that God is using
Exactly.
to put me on that platform.
Right.
One of my favorite scriptures is 2 Thessalonians 5:24.
Wow.
Faithful is he that calls you, who also will do it.
Wow.
And my journey, however, I've gotten to this point and even further, God has done it.
Right.
He's just used instrument, and now he's using Bishop Jakes to put me in a place that I've never even thought or imagined.
Wow. Wow. Your message at MegaFest, what message was that?
I didn't even know I was pregnant.
Wow. Wow. That message was phenomenal.
Thank you. And I had no intention of preaching that message. I told God 18 years ago if I ever got on Bishop Jakes' platform, I had this one sermon. In the Baptist world, they call it your one horse that you know is going to ride around the track. But like a week before I flew to Dallas for that engagement, God told me that my horse was not the horse for the season. And the word he gave me was I didn't know I was pregnant. And that is my testimony, because sometimes people say they see the greatness of God, his hand on me. And I think more people see it before the person who's carrying it see it.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Dr. Jazz, let's talk about your books, your book, Dancing with Broken Bones. Where was this book birthed from?
Well, in Trinidad, it's taken from Psalms 51 verse 7, where David says, allow me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones that you have broken may dance again.
Wow.
And in my lifetime up to this point, I've experienced 3 unbelievable brokenness in my life. I've told you I'm from Trinidad, and my mom had 5 boys and 2 girls. I'm the baby girl. And when my mom had me, my dad flew to London and sent my mother a telegram that he would not come back.
Wow.
And in her trying to raise all of us, she distributed my siblings to different parts of the Caribbean and to New York, but she kept me.
Wow.
And my first brokenness was a father who didn't want anything to do with me.
Wow.
He had the other 6 siblings. He was familiar with them, but he never even held me or had anything to do with me. So I live with that brokenness of rejection. Like one of the chapters in the book is dealing with rejection.
Exactly.
And then when I came into the church world, and particularly the preaching world, the rejection even intensified because I didn't fit the mold. I wasn't a PK. I didn't grow up in church. I wasn't in the clique in crowd.
Wow.
And so that's the first rejection. And then my mom died when I was at the age of 14. In Trinidad, when somebody's parent died, they ring bells.
Okay.
And so I was at my friend Yasmin's house. I'm Jasmine, she's Yasmin.
Wow.
And we heard bells ringing, and I thought it was somebody else's mother. I never thought it was mine.
Wow.
And I said, I need to go home and make sure my mom is all right. And I got to my house, and it was my mom.
Wow.
And so that's the second form of brokenness. And then just going through emotional stuff and not having a father and losing a mother at such a long time. And so the Lord gave me that scripture. And A.W. Tozer, a wonderful theologian, said, it is unlikely that God can use you greatly until he has first broken you deeply.
Wow.
And so the brokenness in the book has nothing to do with the demonic. It's the divine.
Wow.
So many times we blame the brokenness in our lives to Satan, the devil did it. But there's some brokenness that comes from God. I think of Jesus taking bread, he blessed it, and then he broke it.
Right.
And then he multiplied and fed 5,000 people.
Wow.
And so the prerequisite for being used in a mighty way is being broken. Gardner Taylor, an old preacher, said, unless a preacher have experienced blood on their hand, they're not ready to mount a major pulpit. And so that's how that book came about. I never thought about even writing it. It was just my journey. And I deal with rejection, fear. Of course, the book revealed my own inner struggles, my own demons of rejection, of fear, unforgiveness, and forgiving others. When I went to my church, I moved my church on the 70th, and 10 women filed a lawsuit against me to keep the church from moving. And that was my third brokenness. They were picking it out on the lawn. We shall not move. So I tell people, you see the glory now, but you don't understand my story.
Yes. And it's obvious that there is a story because the power and the strength that comes in your voice. In ministry, in watching you at the Potter's House online, you preached a message entitled "Giants Do Die," and that was actually my first encounter of hearing you. Giants do die. That message, Lord, that message was phenomenal. If you don't mind, where was that birthed from?
It was birthed on the lawn. We're dealing with the struggles with those women that God revealed to me that giants do die. And what is amazing about that message to me is, of course, I did not get the invitation like a couple of weeks or months. I went to Pisca, something that Bishop has for ministers over 40. And I interacted with one person while I was there. I met Bishop 18 years ago. I applied for the youth pastor position, and it was between me and Chris Hill.
Wow.
And Chris Hill got
And
it.
we love Pastor Chris Hill.
Of course, that's
Denver
my
Potter's
friend.
House.
Yes.
Wow.
And so it took me 18 years after to get back in that room with Bishop.
Wow.
And my encounter with him. Anyway, after Pisca, he said when he was closing in prayer that God told him that I had a word for the house. And this is on Friday. And he asked me to stay over to preach on Sunday.
Wow.
And while in the hotel room, the word was giants do die. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. And that message means that no matter what giants you have in your life, personally or professionally, that eventually they will die. And I always tell people that the prerequisite to killing your giant is that you've killed your lion and your bear.
Oh my.
So many people want to go after Goliath, but if you study it, David killed the lion and the bear. In other words, if you can't handle a little lion and a little bear, you're not ready for the giants.
Wow.
I think our senior hall said, if you can't run with the dogs, stay on the porch.
Yeah. Love it. Dr. Jazz, there's a major announcement that was just made by Bishop Jakes and yourself. One was you're speaking at Woman Thou Art Loose this year.
Yes.
And the second was you're about to be on the Word Network.
Yes.
How does that feel? What are the dates? What's the time?
Of course, it feels nervous. This is my first opportunity to be on television. We're supposed to be live in the month of April, and so we're excited about it. It's called This Is Your Best Day Yet.
Okay.
And the emphasis, of course, is preaching moments. I think I did 25 or 30 taping, different messages that the Lord has given me. I'm excited about it. I don't want to be on TV for just being on TV. I want to be on a platform on television because I believe that there's a word that God has given me to drop into the universe to make a certain sound.
Yes.
And these doors are opening for that sound to be made. And so we're excited about it. We'll give the time and the dates at a later time, but it will be on the Word Network the early part of the morning, and it's called This Is Your Best Day Yet.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Jazz, we're excited. Well, first of all, we're honored to have you.
Thank you for having me.
We're honored to have you, and we are so sorry we just missed Dancing with Broken Bones conferences, but we were honored to do the media for it.
And we thank you.
And we are so excited that'll be a part of the pictures and some of the actual inside things that happen at the conference. So when is the next one?
Well, the next one we're going to do in Trinidad, because I do believe that I need to go back to my own place and pour back into women. Trinidad is a devastating island. And I believe God brought me out to take me back in to show them what America looks like. So while I'll do one next year, I haven't picked the state because my conference is going to travel from state to state.
Wow.
That's the idea. I'm not going to bring women to me. I'll go to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we haven't picked the state yet. People are bidding for different cities and different states. But one of our mission project is to go to Trinidad and do a Dancing with Broken Bones there, because Trinidad is a place that means something to me because I survived the stuff that happened in Trinidad.
Dr. Jazz, now I know we know your name is Dr. Jasmine Scalard.
Yes.
But you are known by most as Dr. Jazz.
Yes.
But there's another title that I want to know, where did this name come from? The Daughter of Thunder.
Yes. Well, first of all, in scripture, it talks about the sons of thunder. And when I started reading that scripture, I was always admired over the fact that Jesus had some sons of thunder. But years ago, when I lived in Binghamton, New York, upstate New York, the coldest place to go to after coming from Trinidad and Tobago, I nearly died because I never saw snow, never went below 85 degrees. And it's crazy on my island, 85 to 130 degrees, and we singing I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas. So, that's crazy. But anyway, I'm dropped in Binghamton, New York, go to a school called Practical Bible College. I'm the first African Caribbean they've allowed in the school.
Wow.
They wanted to intermingle, and so the professor of the school came up with this idea. He wanted me to travel to African American churches and share the importance of going to Bible school. And so they give me a 30-voice all-white choir. And so we had to travel from upstate New York all the way up to Canada and different parts of the country. And they're supposed to sing, and I'm supposed to give this 10 to 15 minute speech of why I go to Practical Bible College. Just imagine this. There's about 30 Caucasians behind me. I've got a serious accent at that time. I'm from Trinidad. We're in an African American church. I've never had African American church experience. They are singing opera, and I'm supposed to get up and tell why I go to Practical Bible College. So on my itinerary, I have 30 churches to go to, 15 Caucasian churches, and 15 African American. I go to the Caucasian churches. They sang beautifully. I give my little speech. I go to Practical Bible College because 2 Timothy 2:15 said, study to show yourself approval unto God. I go to the African American church and they sing and they applaud, and I get up and give my speech. The scripture said, study to show. This is the first time somebody's hollering back at me. You need to say it. I'm like, say what? They say it real loud. And then I'm hearing an organ behind me. I'm introduced to Hammond B3 now. And then there's a drum, and then they get happy. So this is my first African American experience. And by the end of the 15 places in the African American churches, this one woman said to me, she said, you don't even weigh 100 wet. I know you're not 100 pounds wet, but that voice sounds like thunder.
Wow.
And that's exactly how it stayed. And then I started doing a history on the Daughters of Thunder. And I realized that I was part of a legacy of women who have stood up and sounded like thunder. And I wanted to carry on that legacy. I don't want to be just a pretty preacher. I want to be a preacher of substance and style. I want to say something. I want to look good and say something.
That's it.
And so that's where the thunder comes from.
Wow. Because it sounds like it. I was just curious to where the name came from, because we hear the sound. We hear the sound because it's so unassuming.
Right.
Because, I remember the first time Bishop Jakes announced you, and they had this awesome promo of you up, and it was a video bio, and this thing was phenomenal. But you didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, just in the intro, when you said, I just want to thank God for Bishop Jakes, everybody was like, who was on the mic?
Yeah.
Because you see this small lady, but when you open your mouth, it's a huge sound that resounds. So awesome. DrJzz, Woman Thou Loose, October the 2nd through the 4th, 2014, here in the greatest city in the world, Atlanta, Georgia. I hear that somebody has a birthday right before this conference.
Yes, that's me, October the 8th.
October.
So my birthday celebration will be at the Woman Thou Loose conference, and the theme is The Wait is Over. Atlanta, we're coming to get you. And we're excited, and we want you to register early because seating is limited. tdjakes.org. Spread the word with your girlfriend, your sister friend, even call your haters, and let them know we are back in Atlanta, Georgia for a Woman Thou Art Loose.
DrJzz, I want to talk, how can people that have heard of your ministry and those that haven't, because you are, to me, one of the most greatest kept secrets in the kingdom right now. And I say that with the most humble respect. I've had the opportunity to hear you minister on several occasions. And we were just at Dr. E. Dewey Smith's church.
Right.
And I think you were on the mic maybe 3 minutes. And you weren't even up to speak. You were actually making an announcement because Bishop Jakes got stuck in the bad weather in Dallas.
Right.
And you were just getting up to tell the people that Bishop Jakes was on the way, and the crowd went berserk. And I said, look at this woman. It was like 3 minutes of pure chaos and an announcement being made that Bishop Jakes was on the way. So it's how can they go about getting your products? Where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, and this is the simple way. If you on Twitter, I am DrJzz. Facebook, I am DrJzz. Instagram, I am DrJzz. Even in the hood, I am DrJzz. And then my website is iamdrjzz.com or drjazzministries.com. And it has my products, my itinerary. You can stay in touch with me, stay in contact with me, and I love to connect with others.
Awesome. Now, last but not least, I know your itinerary is filling up quickly. Are you open to or is your ministry taking invitations? I know that you are one of Bishop Paul Morton's speakers for his Full Gospel Conference this summer. You have Woman Thou Loose. You have some big things coming up this year. Is your itinerary, are you still open for invites to be sent for consideration?
Yes, and all of that is on my website for booking and all the particulars.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming. It was an honor and a privilege.
Thank you for having me.
Joy105.com